Where were you brought up and what was it like living there?
Well, I was brought up down the marsh at Hungerford, and we had a 3-bedroom cottage with 8 of us in family, and we enjoyed it really. We were near the marsh, so we used to play on the marsh, but we enjoyed it.
What transport was there then?
Well, transport, the only transport I knew, my father was a haytar, and we had a pony and trap, horse and cart, and that's what he used to have to go to work. Later on, I'm talking now about 60 years ago. But later on, they had a bicycle. But they had pony and trap, that's what they used to have. And otherwise, people used to walk. For instance, I worked at Woolridge's and Builders for years. Mr. Woolridge years ago, he used to have a pony and trap, but when I went there in 1920, he used to walk right over to Fosbury, he'd walk right over Lambert Woodlands. He used to go by train sometimes to places like Bedwin and Tinbury. All the rest he'd walk. He'd come back with beads of sweat on his forehead. He used to take him half the day to go there and back, so there wouldn't be time now, but that's what he used to do. He loved it.
What education did you receive?
What education?
Yeah.
Well, I went to the Hungerford Wesleyan School, and then when this school was built and that school was closed, we went up there, you see. Mr. Cameron was the headmaster.
How old were you when you...
Well, I was I'm not sure, I was either 12 or 13 when we moved up. I think I must have been 12. And time I was 13, did I ever show you my reports?
No.
By the time I was 13, I was top of the school.
Well,
And then, to be quite candid, I got a little bit big-headed, and I didn't study so much, and the next term I was about 8th. And then I began to pick up again, then they wanted me to leave, because I was a bright boy. They thought I should do something good. And so they said, perhaps you'd go in the post office. Well, I went and saw the postmaster, that was years ago. And he said, well, there you are, and he said, 3 shillings a week. And you might be sent to Newbury, so that was out of it.
what happened to someone who wasn't very clever at school?
Well, they were on your gents. I mean, they left when they were 14, you see, and just took a labourer's job or something like that.
What wages did you get for jobs?
Well, you see, my first job, you see, we were brought up to work. My dad was a haytar, and it was piecework. It was cutting rick down in trusses. They were half an hour each, for £6. And they used to get 4 shillings a ton for that. I remember my dad telling me it worked out about penny farthing a truss, and that was supposed to be good then. But then you see, sometimes it was a nice day, you'd earn perhaps 2 tons they'd cut out, and that was 8 shillings worth. That was 48 shillings a week. Well, most of the wages were about 16 or 17 shillings. But when it was wet, they had to go and take the thatch off the roof and uncover it, you see, when it was fine. Then when it would come on rain, they had to cover it up again, and sometimes my dad couldn't go to work for 2 or 3 weeks, and there was no money, no unemployment, no social service, no sickness benefit, anything like that. So they had nothing coming in at all. So all us boys, we had to work and help keep the family. When I went to, did I tell you I had a job of £1 a week? Yes. My first job was at 11-year-old, and just something. My elder brother had a job, and he at Barnard's, taking the papers round. He got 2 shillings. Then they found me a little round, and I used to go start from Barnard's down where Barnard's were, and go up the Park Street, along Fairview Road, and down all up to as far as the Salisbury Roadhouse is up there. That was £1 a week. And one day it rained like anything. We never had Macs in those days. And we stood up in church, and we got wet through. And Miss Barnard, she went on at us, and my mother wouldn't let me go anymore. So I packed it. Now, my other job after that was, of course, I was 13. They wanted me to leave. They wouldn't let me leave at first. You had to pass the labour exam, but I did just leave. I did pass the exam. I just left before I was 13. I remember the school master, school teacher, especially Mr. Weaving. He got told no why he wanted me to stop. He said, what a pity, their choice. And I got a job at Alexander's, the seed merchants. I was in the shop, supposed to be. And rotten job it was, £5 a week. Oh, then I couldn't leave. Then so I used to go mornings and sweep the offices out and dust. I used to, that was up to school time. Then I used to come back after school and work till 7 o'clock. I used to work all day Saturday. I had £half-crown a week. When I left, I had 5 shillings. Then afterwards, the old chap said, you do that, a boy, and I was broken-hearted. I nearly cried when I went home, I remember. I always used to give this 5 shillings a week to my mother, of course. And then I got another job, or my dad got me the job at the Kennet Works, which are agricultural works. H. Gibbons and Sons Limited. Used to make flowers, Z1, Z2, C1 and C2. We used to make climax elevators, sent to Germany. I remember that very well. And the carpenters, I remember the general foreman, that was a man named Meatway, he had 7 farthing an hour. The garage foreman had 7, that was a man named Killick. And my uncle was, one of my uncles was a head moulder, he had 700 was. We had 2 blacksmiths. They had, one was named Hunt, one was named Hollister, from relation to these Hollisters round there. And they had 6 an hour. Then they had 2 big strapping sands. They were strikers, they call them, used the sledgehammers. They had 3 an hour.
How much did things cost?
Well, of course, I didn't buy much. I can tell you one thing, a few things I can do. I think bread was 3 a loaf. That's the large cottage loaf. I think milk was 3, because we often used to, my mother used to say, have you got any last nights? And that was a penny cheaper. And they used to buy skim milk sometimes, everybody did. And one thing I do remember, we never had oranges as a rule, but at Christmas time we did. And I went at least once to the shop, Alexander's, there used to be a shop there, and they were 4 a penny. And I remember going, there was a sack stood up on the floor, and you'd get 50 for a shilling. That's about the only time we had oranges. And eggs, when the eggs were cheap, whatever time of year that was, we used to walk across the marsh to the farm, High Close Farm, and we used to get 25 eggs for a shilling. What else? Oh, well, then when I went, left, I was telling you too much, then I left Gibbons's, and when the war broke out, I got sick again. I was getting nearly broken out this time. You see, we were trading with Germany, and then that finished it. So they put off more than half the men. And I was the office boy. And it was just before that I'd asked for a rise, and they gave me a shilling rise. My mother said, well, she said, yeah, you can have this shilling. No, she said, you must help buy your clothes. So I did. And then I got a job at Newbury, and I had a lodge. And I remember Mr. Buckingham, I was at Elliott's it used to be. And he said, how much do you want? I could see him now. And I said, well, I slept a lodge, and I didn't like to ask for too much. I've been only 6. And I said, I should want 12 and 6. And he grinned at me. I expect he thought I was silly, really. And I used to pay 6 shillings. I had an aunt up there. I used to pay her 6 shillings a week for lodgings. And the first job I had to do, I had to buy a suit. A navy blue suit I bought. And it cost 36 shillings. That's the first thing I had to say up for a best suit. Afterwards, I paid 8 shillings for it. When I joined up, by the way, that was in 1916, I suppose. I was getting about 22 and 6. I kept on having bits of roses, There's nothing now, you go there for pocket money.
What medical facilities were there?
What?
What medical facilities?
Well, there was only the doctors, you see. The thing I remember was you only had the 2 doctors, Dr. James and Dr. Smith. And every 3 months, my poor mother used to have a bill, come to medical services rendered, £3.15 or £6.15. I always had to pay everything, you see. There was no national health. And that was all the worry, you see. We had a family of 8, and there was always something, and it was quite a thing, really. But nothing else.
Do you know anything about poor relief?
Well, not much. The only thing I know about poor law was that relief was only when anybody was destitute. They used to give them perhaps 2 or 3 shillings, or take them up to the union here. Well, it's hospital now, that's where they used to go. That was the very poor people when they had nothing, no relatives to look after them, and nowhere to go, and that's where they used to go. And the master was Mr. Wigglesworth. That's right, I remember his name now. Mr. and Mrs. Wigglesworth, the tall thin chap he was. And that was a rummish do then.
Was that the workhouse?
That's the workhouse, yeah. I mean, it's all nice now, but in those days it was just wards of poor people, you know, the men and the women, and they were practically there to die, poor lot.
Do you know what it was like inside the workhouse? Did you know anybody who was in one?
No. I know in my... people used to call us a great... We used to think we were a little bit better than others, but we weren't really, but they thought we were, you know. But I remember my grandmother went to the workhouse. You see, we had a large family, and there was... My mother had a brother who was a milkman, had a dairy down the street there, and another brother who used to work somewhere else. He had some family, and was there one sister. My dad had a couple of sisters, although they weren't much. They couldn't take her, but I think my mother was the only one that would have her mother there when she got old. You see, her husband had died, Grandfather Ford, that was. Grandfather Ford had died, and so we had her down there, but it really got a bit too much for my mother, and quite honestly, I'm ashamed of it now, of course, but I always think she was a bit of an old nuisance. But she used to sit in the front room, poor woman, with a shawl round her, you know, and the fire, and in the end she got ill, and they couldn't look after her, and she had to go up to the different places to die. Pity her.
Well, that's all I want to ask you.
Yes, it wasn't much, really.